Hey, what's up? So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I actually think Tesla is the investment opportunity of the century. And the point of this video I'm making really is just a PSA for people that might know me or just come across my channel. Just want to let you know, hey, maybe you should look into investing in Tesla stock. I'm not asking you to invest in it. I just want you to just look into it and just do your own research. And I'm trying to be as straightforward as possible. So I follow Tesla news on very closely on a regular basis. So a lot of these numbers, I didn't really look into that much. I just kind of pulled them out because I already knew them. So just take that with a grain of salt, and you can double check my numbers as well. I try to avoid hard numbers in this case because basically the point of this video is just like, hey, maybe this is why you should be looking into Tesla as an investment. All right. So the main reason I think you can invest in Tesla stock is because there is not a lot of downside, and there's a ton of upside. And when I say not a lot of downside is like I don't think the company's gonna go out of business. There's a good chance it's gonna do very well. There's a very low chance that it's gonna not do well, right? So that's kind of like it's a very safe bet in my opinion. Obviously, the stock is very volatile, so if you can hold it for the long term, and I'm talking long term, like 5+ years, then it's cool. If you're just trying to hold it for a couple of months, yeah, there's a lot of volatility, and it's not for the faint of heart. Just for people that don't know, this is like the master plan they wrote out, years ago. But essentially, their plan was, hey, let's first build a very low volume car that's very expensive, right? So we can get a few people to buy it and pay a lot of money for it, and then we're gonna use that money to develop a medium volume car that probably be like your Model Y or your Model 3 at a lower price. And then they're gonna take all that money and they're gonna develop a very affordable car, which will be like the Model 2 that will come out at some point in the near future. All right, so that's their master plan. They wrote about this like 10 years ago. And then part two is gonna be uh, you know, have solar roofs and battery storage, right? And then expand the vehicle to all major segments. So, obviously vans and trucks and whatever. And then develop self-driving capability that is safer than human driving via a lot of cars learning, recording miles and learning, right? Which is what they're doing. They have full self-driving developing. And then after that will be your car can drive itself and it can, robotaxi while you're not there and make money for you. There's a part three as well, but let's not get into part three. Okay, so just so if you don't know about the growth Tesla's experience, it took 12 years for them to make their first million cars. The second million took 15 months. Third million took 10 months. Fourth million took 7 months, and fifth million took 6.5 months. So what I'm saying to you is the adoption of electric vehicles will be exponential, right? It's not like going to be a linear adoption. It's going to be exponential, kind of like how cars replaced, um, horses, right? It was an exponential shift. It went from like 20% to 8%, just a few years. That's going to happen with this as well. And you can already see this curve. So what I'm saying is like you're not going to see linear growth. You're going to see exponential growth. And I think it's very difficult for people to like understand this, but it's going to come. It's going to come very fast. That's what she said. Okay, so things that matter when developing EVs, I feel like people miss the point. Okay, you probably read the news all the time. There's like all these competitors coming, and they have this car is better, it's better here, it's better there, and blah blah blah. Okay, these are the things that matter when you're developing EV. One is scale. How fast can you get into mass production? Okay, and the second is how much money can you make doing it? Can you make enough cars fast enough without running out of money? That's like the biggest challenge for all car companies. Okay, so I'm gonna repeat. This is the most important thing: scale. How fast can you get up to? Because you can build a car, right? Making a car is different from scaling production. That's a much difficult problem, much more difficult problem. And the second one is probably how fast can you actually make money doing it, right? And people, you should read the news. They're always talking about competition, competition, competition. There are very few car companies. I don't know if there's any that are making money selling EVs. Maybe the only one is BYD, but BYD there's a lot of other things. And then I think their EVs sales are actually the profit per EV is actually pretty low. But that's like the only other company. Everyone else is losing money. All right, just let that set in. Everyone else is losing money selling EVs. I don't think there's a one other car company that's making money selling EVs. Okay, so I actually did Google a couple of these, and a lot of the car manufacturers they kind of blend their ICE vehicles with EV vehicles. There isn't a lot of numbers on that, but like Ford is losing $32,000 for every car they sell. Every EV they sell, they're losing $32,000. Rivian is happy about losing $33,000 for every car they sell, down from like $100,000. I don't even talk about losing. They're losing $338,000. And Tesla, the most recent quarter, is down to they're making about $5,700 per EV they sell. Okay, so there's a much different business metrics between these companies, right? Would you agree? And then keep in mind, Ford's the only company that's like breaking out their EV side um from their ICE vehicle side. Everyone else has them mixed in, so they don't report those numbers as far as I know. But they're probably seeing very similar numbers. So another thing to keep in mind, if you read the news, they use all these numbers like, oh, like market share in this, market share there, blah 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 blah. Okay, so the numbers that matter is going to be total volume in the world, right? Or market share of all cars in the world, because EVs aren't competing just with EVs. EVs are competing with other cars as well. So numbers you want to look at is, hey, are you growing worldwide, and are you growing market share if you're taking market share of the entire world of cars? All right, that's kind of how the numbers you would make, because you'll probably see like, oh, the EV share in like France is lower in this quarter versus, there's a lot of just news out there that just tries to cookie cutter metrics, and then I think that was more of a problem a couple years ago. Now it's like harder and harder to deny. All right, so why is Tesla hands down a much better company than all other car companies? There's a lot of reasons, but I think one thing to talk about is the manufacturing advantage, right? So Elon has a system of manufacturing. Basically, the best part is no part. So they're really good at reducing sophistication or intricacies of the manufacturing process. And they have a lot of examples of this. But one example would be like limited choices, right? There's only four models, and really only two of those models sell a lot of cars, right? And then within those two models, there's not a lot of different trims, right? There's not a lot of different colors. And by doing this, they're able to manufacture these cars very efficiently. And and I see a lot of headlines like, oh, like didn't Tesla doesn't have any choices. It doesn't matter. It's like kind of like the iPhone. The iPhone doesn't have a lot of choices, right? But it's the best selling phone. And by the way, Model Y is the best selling car in the world. I don't know if anyone knows that, but people try to ignore that. They're literally the best selling car in the world. All right. Other things that they do that other manufacturers are trying to develop now, they've been doing for years, is they have gigacasting, which means like instead of like having to build all these parts and having someone solder it and like all these, put all these parts together, they literally just cast it into one part. So that reduces a lot of machinery, right? The best part is no part, a lot of, well, like humans doing it, robots doing it. They're just really efficient. And that was like a whole process of how they developed it, right? And then 3, 4 years later, you can see other car manufacturers try to adopt it. Another advantage they have is vertical integration. They basically build everything that's in the car. Like a lot of car manufacturers have like a vendor for seats, a vendor for steering wheels, a vendor for these parts, right? Tesla just basically manages everything in house, and they have very good supply chain management as well. Like across the world, they're able to manage supply chains, manage their vendors really well, so they're not running out of parts. During the like the COVID, they had talked about, oh, there's a chip shortage. Like Tesla was still producing cars, right? While all the other car manufacturers also saying there's a chip shortage. Also the way they design the factories, like every time they build a new factory, it gets more efficient because they build their factory differently for whatever cars they're gonna build, and they're just like very good at planning and making this stuff very efficient. They're also very software centered, so they don't need things like buttons or all these other parts because they can just use software to do it all. And also Tesla's culture is like they move very quickly. So like if someone just discovers like a way to save, let's say, a few pennies here, a few minutes here, then they adopt it very quickly. So they move very quickly like a startup. So for all these reasons is why they're able to make money selling EVs while everyone else is losing tens of thousands of dollars per every car they sell, which is insane. So you can see now, this has been said very early on. Tesla will have the luxury to cut prices, and that's what they're doing. So they're basically reducing their costs and then passing those savings on to increase market share. Right now, we're going through a period where there's high inflation, high interest rates. People aren't really buying cars, but Tesla can continue to sell cars because they're pricing their cars lower. You look at GM and Ford right now; they're literally going to go out of business. They're for sure going to go out, especially like the United, United Autos Union. I don't know wherever they are, UAW. They're striking for more money. These guys are making like six figures and they're striking for like to work four hours a week for more money. Like I don't know if they're aware that GM and Ford are going to go out of business very soon. Their money that they make, all their profits are from the ICE vehicles, right? They're losing money on the EVs. They're trying to switch to EVs. It's not going to work out very well for them. I'm saying it right now. This strike is going to put them out of business. Um, okay, and also Tesla has like they're really fast, right? They can build a factory in like 18 months and start producing cars, and they can go from like just a little bit of production to high production in a very short period of time. So I don't know if there's any car manufacturers that can do that. So they're just very efficient at scaling. A lot of the arguments that you hear all the time still, it's like, oh, Tesla's just a car company. Their price to earnings ratio is way too high. They're not a tech company. And I don't know if it matters if you're a tech company or you're an auto company. Your valuation is really based on your growth, right? And opportunity. Like, I mean, just look at Tesla's growth, and then that can kind of tell you what their multiple should be at. And for the everyone arguing, oh, their P ratio is too high, like they're growing revenue and earnings significantly every year. So if the price stays the same, the ratio will go down significantly. The biggest opportunity I think right now, so like I said earlier, you have like you have like you have a very stable business that's growing very fast, right? But they also have like all these moonshots, right? So for example, I think FSD, full self driving, is one of those moonshots that I think is coming to fruition. One thing to understand about this is Tesla is not solving the same problem as everyone else, right? You look at like Waymo or Cruise, they're basically mapping out every single road in the city, and they have this like giant car with this giant thing on it with all these, radar and all this stuff. And they're saying, okay, car, you can play in this sandbox, and we know exactly what everything's doing, and you can drive, right? And it works, and it's fine, it's good, right? But what Tesla is solving for, hey, I'm gonna drop this car anywhere. It's never seen it before. It's never been here before, and it can actually like look at what's going around, think about, process it, and then make a decision. All right, that's a much more difficult problem to solve, right? And if you look at AI, competition, it's basically going to be whoever has the most data, right? Whoever has the most and highest quality data is going to win. And Tesla is the winner by a long shot. They have millions of cars that are driving every day, producing millions of miles. Whereas all these other car companies have like 20 cars, 30 cars. They have like maybe 1 million miles driven. So obviously, from a data perspective, Tesla's going to win. Also, like I said earlier, let's say for example, Tesla sells full self driving, and let's say Waymo sells full self driving at the exact same time, and let's just say they solve it the exact same way. Uh, how is Waymo going to scale? The cost of like putting that stuff on the car is huge. Tesla can literally turn it on for 4 million cars right away, right? And then Waymo's also got to go and like they got to map out every single city. Like it just the scale is not quite there. They're solving different problems for this. I would say it's the same issue, but yeah, I mean, I don't think most people kind of grasp what the difference of level they're playing at. Also, FSD V12 is end to end AI. Basically, it's like video comes into Tesla or to their AI, and then like action comes out. So there's no more rules based approach. They don't have code that says like, oh, if you see a stop sign, you stop. It's like I've seen millions of people stop at a stop sign. I'm gonna stop here. I've seen millions of people turn right in this situation. I'm gonna do this, which means that you can now learn a lot faster because they can just feed it all these videos. You don't have to have anyone like coding. So there's continuous improvement and there's also self learning. So I can say that I feel very confident that FSD will be solved, right? It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time and more data. Incrementally, think it's going to get better and better. At some point, it will get to better than humans. And at some point, it'll get 5, 10, 20 times better than humans. And at some point, it'll be like, okay, we can't deny that it's safer anymore, just based on the data. And whenever people start noticing, the stock price is going to double, triple, quadruple overnight because now you're not just selling a car, you're selling a subscription for software that costs Tesla $0 to turn on. So right now, let's say they make $6,000 to $10,000 a car, they can make double that, triple that every year. Well, not every year. They can make double that, triple that, right? They can make like they can over the course of the car's lifetime. And at some point, they're gonna license this technology out to other car manufacturers, and they're gonna basically make more money on the car that someone else sells. And the problem is, if I have a car that can drive itself and you don't, like, why would anyone buy your car, right? So they will other car manufacturers will be forced to have to license full self driving. Okay, there's another thing called energy. The revenue from energy will probably be bigger than cars at some point. So these are just kind of summary of what Tesla does in energy. It's not a full summary, but from what I can think of, they have energy storage. So you have the power wall, like in your house. You have a power pack, mega pack. These are like big ass batteries that you can store, and they can like feed. I think they can like feed and take energy from into the grid, and they have like all this software that kind of just like determines like what the price should be. So like I'm not sure if you guys know this, but like let's say for example you have like so you have a windmill, right? The windmill is spinning and it's generating energy. Well, that energy comes in and you have to use it right now. Like if I turn this light on, this energy is getting generated right now, right? So like they're basically burning all this fossil fuel or like they're spinning windmills and it's going to the grid. And if no one uses it, then it has to go somewhere. So it has to get wasted somewhere, right? Unless you can store it. So it's really important to be able to store energy because then now you can use it more efficiently. When there's really high demand, you can use it. When there's low demand, you can store it, right? So it just becomes a lot more cost efficient. So they have all this software that does that. Obviously, they have solar. They have the supercharger network, which is like kind of gas stations for cars in the future, and nobody else can build out a network. Tesla is letting all the other car manufacturers use their network, right? Because the problem is like if I'm going to buy a Ford car, but I can't charge anywhere, like why would I buy a Ford car, right? So Tesla's letting everyone use their network, so that everyone's adopting to Tesla's charger. Tesla's the most efficient at building superchargers compared to all these other third-party companies. I don't even know why governments are giving contracts to other companies because it's just costing way more money. They also have a lot of energy software as well, like kind of like you can read into what the energy is, how the energy is being spent. But once again, the revenue here is probably and profit margins are probably around the same as cars. It's going to be bigger than cars at some point. They also have this thing called the Dojo Supercomputer, and I had to learn this as well. But basically, by February of next year, they're gonna have 30 exaflops of computing power, and one exaflop. And that's gonna be like top five computers in the world. So one exaflop is 1 to the 18th, 1 to the power 18th computer operations per second. And I don't even know what that like. That's hard to understand. So basically, um, they're trying to get the 100 exaflops by next year. Okay, October next year. And just so for some measurement or comparison, 100 exaflops of compute is equivalent to 300,000 A100 NVIDIA GPUs, which is like the highest quality NVIDIA GPUs that they sell. It's about $10,000 each for one NVIDIA GPU. So that's about $3 billion in computing power. And Tesla's building all this in house. So Dojo is basically this training cluster. Basically, how it works is like they have these chips, and then they just like stack these chips on each other, and then they're just super efficient. So each the chips by themselves is a computer, and together is a computer, and like they can share like heating and cooling or whatever, or power and cooling. But essentially, they've designed their own chip clusters to be able to train the AI to turn vision into something that they can process, and then something they can process into action. But what's going to happen eventually is, so then they're investing heavily into this, so they can just train a lot faster. Like I said earlier, it's all is videos in and action out. But at some point, once it's solved, they're not going to need all those training clusters. So what they're going to do is they're going to be able to lease it out to other companies that to train their own AI, right? And that's going to be a whole another business model. Like kind of how like Amazon Web Services built all these like servers for Black Friday, and they don't need it during the year, so they rent it out. And the Amazon Web Services is like kind of the most profitable part about Amazon right now. So that's an example where that's like a moonshot, and that it seems like it's gonna happen, but like it's not priced into the stock price right now, right? So it's like if this happens, then the stock price is gonna go, you know, bonkers. But no one, but the market's not pricing it in. So that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, the car business is gonna be good, but there's gonna be a lot of upside to that. Another thing that Tesla bought, and like that's another thing where it's like, okay, people don't even talk about it. Like when the thing that's amazing about Elon Musk is he's gonna be like, okay, let's talk about Tesla bot, and then like right when he talked about it, like the stock price just tanked, right? And then within a year, they literally built a bot that's like probably better than Boston Dynamics bot, right? And is using the reason is because it's using FSD software to learn, and they're also able to build it with with their own all their own actuators and all that stuff, and like they have the robots have actually fingers, and they can learn it. It can learn on its own. You should watch the video. It's crazy. But basically, this is like another huge opportunity. Like this could be they could sell that bot for like $10,000, and that bot could be like an employee at some company, right? It's gonna be crazy. Like I don't want to go into like how much money this can mean for the company, but it's gonna be an insane amount. But obviously, for some reason, like Wall Street's not factoring it in. Oh yeah, another thing I want to talk about is the like news and analysts. So like I follow Tesla news a lot, and I'm just like I'm like baffled about how ridiculous all these headlines and stuff is. It's like the news writes about Tesla and Elon anytime it can. Just I think it's for clicks, right? And they often get things really really wrong. And a lot of times you read the news and you're like, oh wow, that sounds terrible. And then if you actually look a couple of layers deeper, it's like, oh, this is the exact opposite of what happened. And like the most recent one I noticed because it just came out is like they announced a factory shutdown because they're upgrading the Model 3 refresh. Right, so they have to shut down the factory to do it, and that's why they announced, okay, in quarter 3 the numbers will be a little bit lower. But every news article or whatever that show that talks about Tesla is like, oh, there's a lack of demand. It's like, hey, there actually isn't a lack of demand. It's because we said we're gonna have lower supply this quarter, but we're still gonna hit our annual number, and then it's just like they just say, oh, it's lack of demand. I don't know if you notice this. Like anytime a Tesla gets in a car accident, Tesla's always written in the headline. And there's like a million of these. There's like a million of these examples. But my point is like, hey, just don't read the headlines exactly. Just actually just do your little bit of your own thinking and just make your own decisions. And also like analysts are really fucking stupid. Like I don't understand how these people have jobs. Like they just can't forecast anything in the future. They have like no vision. They just have like this linear graph. Like okay, if it's is it making money right now? If it's not, I can't even put it into my forecast. So, and they're like wrong all the time. So yeah. So that's my talk. I say just don't look at news and headlines to make a decision on this investment. Just kind of read a little past it. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. Thanks.